Listen, no one likes being told what they can and can't do.
Can't say that.
Now, one outspoken Australian senator has taken it upon himself to defend gamers from the frankly ridiculous censorship policies in force down under.
Recently, Outlast 2 was refused a classification rating in Australia due to scenes of implied sexual violence. This meant the game was refused an R18+ rating, the highest possible age rating in Australia. But Senator David Leyonhjelm has appealed to the Australian Senate to allow adults to decide for themselves which video games they want to access. The senator cited evidence from a survey which said that at least 68% of Australians play video games on a regular basis. Their average age is 33, and the ratio of male to female players is almost 50%.
Senator Leyonhjelm highlighted the fact that the demographics of games and politicians have very little crossover. Not many senators or public servants are qualified to make laws surrounding video games, he argued, because they have little to no knowledge of the subject. He even threw a nice Witcher reference in there, saying senators don't know their ghouls from their owl ghouls. This has been a problem in Australia for a few years, and it goes back to Mortal Kombat, that kind of mid-90s, early 90s kind of era where everybody panicked because video games suddenly were very gory and graphic, and this kind of classification system that they've got in Australia was part of the worldwide kind of response to that. And it's only very recently been updated to have like an 18 rating. So they had like a 15 was the highest rating they could get, which is why so many games have been banned down there. So there's quite a long list of games that haven't actually made it to retail in Australia because of the classification system.
For people who don't even play games, to be making legislation on like who gets to play these games or not, it's a bit ridiculous. I mean, imagine someone who doesn't drive passing legislation on safety in cars and things like that. It doesn't make any sense. Surely you should know your subject matter intimately before you're qualified to make these types of laws. And some people might say, well, this is Australia, why should we give a shit? But the important thing to remember here is that these are lawmakers, and this sets a bad precedent for lawmakers across the whole world if they want to use this as a reason to start censoring games wherever they live, whatever country they're making laws for. So we've got to stop this. We've got to stick together as gamers and say no. Like, we're not kids, we're not 13, we're not impressionable. It doesn't lead to us going out killing people just because we play games, just like violent movies don't lead to people going out killing people either. It's just a form of entertainment. We're not going to go into that argument more than that. Like, everyone knows, you guys know.
The Australian government has a fairly long history of banning or at least censoring new games. Games like arcade fantasy NFL title Blitz the League were never released due to drug use related incentives and rewards. The likes of Hotline Miami 2, Wrong Number, Manhunt, and even 50 Cent Bulletproof were banned for various violence related reasons, although mercifully a toned down version of 50 Cent Bulletproof was later released. But even games you wouldn't necessarily think of, games like The Witcher 2, South Park Stick of Truth, and Risen, as in the clunky 6 out of 10 RPG from 2009, Risen, were also banned in Australia because of portrayals of things like sex and drug use. Things that would skate through the classification process here in the UK can quite easily run into problems in Australia. Also, probably most famous was Left 4 Dead 2, where it's taken ages for them to finally get to play Left 4 Dead 2, which isn't that violent. It's a zombie shooting game, and Valve even did some funny business with changing the blood that came out of the zombies to be green or black. I can't remember exactly what colour it was, but so that it wasn't like blood, because the Australian censor said you're mowing down all these zombies and there isn't enough differentiation there between zombies and normal humans, which is just ridiculous. It's just a cartoonish, silly game. There's no obscene violence in it. It's just a zombie shoot 'em up thing. To see that banned is ridiculous, and it wasn't until 2014 that they actually got to play it when they added the 18 plus certificate in Australia. So there you go.
They also added a cricket bat in game just as
nice little
a bit of a dig there. You could go around whacking people with a cricket bat. Funny.
Valve are better at Australia jokes than we are, apparently.
Senator Leyonhjelm. Is that his name? Is it Dave?
Dave. Let's call him Dave.
We should just call him Bruce. Everyone in Australia is called Bruce. So.
Wow. There's the Australian joke.
There's the racist joke. Senator Bruce went on to explain how even if politicians wanted to learn about video games, websites like IGN, Polygon and PC Gamer are blocked on government networks. But it's still possible to visit websites showing videos of obscene violence. Leyonhjelm said Australia censorship is based on the false assumption that all gamers are impressionable children, when the demographics clearly state the opposite. He also brought up how in Australia adults are not allowed to decide for themselves what type of entertainment they would like to see, but they are allowed to go out and vote. The mere suggestion of a challenging scene was enough to have Outlast 2 banned in Australia.
Leyonhjelm finished his speech on the topic by saying video games do not hurt anybody and the government classification board should leave video gamers alone. Not long after the speech, the Australian classification board relented and gave Outlast 2 the go-ahead for release with an R18 plus rating. What sucks though is that what they've approved is a modified version of the game to please the classification board, and that will be the version that's going to be released worldwide. Going back to what you said earlier, oh, this is Australia, why should we care about it? Well, the actual game has been changed. As far as we know, this is according to a statement that's been given to IGN, as far as we've read it. They've approved a modified version of the game, so they were unhappy with the original, they were given another version, and they've given that the go-ahead. Everyone is going to have a different version of Outlast 2 based on this thing that's happened in Australia because of what the Australian classification board has done. That's why you should care about it. And also, let's just, support our friends in Australia. We're all gamers. We should stand up for each other as well.
For those of you who haven't noticed already, we hit 100,000 subscribers, which is awesome. And we are doing a special 100k subscriber Q&A podcast on Wednesday. So if you've got any questions for us in the podcast, leave them down in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. We'll see you again in the next one.